Final hour overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Get to our best bets later in the hour. Dear Hayesy B coming up later in the hour. Pierre LeBrun will join us. Leafs back in action tomorrow night. Raptors back home on Sunday. You've got March Madness continuing. Duke just laid a beating on the 16 seed today, 93-49. But there were a couple of close games earlier today. Alabama was dicey at one point. That's a 2 seed that ended up kind of running away with it. But nothing
you see
too
the dude
major.
That's becoming famous for like walking his team out.
Yeah, you see that every year. Like there's some type of cults kind of not cult. I shouldn't say cult, but like some sort of like unique story with a unique school that takes on a life of its own, and I guess that could be it this year. I guess we'll see. But Pierre LeBrun coming up here in a moment. Leafs Preds tomorrow. I guess this expansion in the NHL is all of a sudden really starting to pick up because
go for it.
Houston's getting a team. Atlanta's going to get a team. I think Kevin Weeks was saying last night, like maybe it'll go to 36. And I believe the PA has been told, like it's coming. It's just a matter of time. And they're going to make a lot of money. And it's just going to water down the league. But they're going to add games. And there's going to be more tournaments. And
Houston can like the city's massive.
What do you mean more tournaments? What do you?
Well, I mean like the Four Nations face-off and the World Cup and everything.
Yeah.
Like every 2 years, that's going to be. You know, and that's NHL revenue, right? And owners are going to make money, and the PA is going to make money, and there's going to be more players than ever that are employed, and the cap's going up. And yet, I think if you're a fan, you know, let's say you're a Leaf fan, you're looking at this saying, okay, there's 2 more teams that you've got to compete with now for the Stanley Cup. They haven't won in.
If they're going to have that many teams, don't you have to go like a National League, American League type format where you just periodically pop in and play a team? I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean, this could be aligned with the idea of them adding games in the regular season, though, too, right? That if you can add a couple of games, you add a couple of teams. I'm not sure how they're going to handle that because you want to see every player in the league come through town, right? Like,
I know. Dude, look how many games there are. Look how many back-to-backs there are. It's like a team gets a breather for 2 or 3 days, and then it's 3 and 4 nights. Leafs are a prime example. Couple days off, then Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Saturday. It's like I find the schedule to be insane.
But the Four Nations face-off caused that because you shut the league down for 3 weeks or whatever it was. How long? Wait, it wasn't that long.
It was over the course of 2 weekends, though. Yeah.
So let's call it 2.5 weeks. So the schedule is just compressed, and then you're going to have Olympics next year, and as you mentioned, you're going to have other tournaments and stuff. It's too many games, and what happens is you get nights that are just mail it in because the guys have no energy. How many times we could actually run a clip of pick a coach in any team. It was like, my team didn't have no energy tonight, no nothing. Travel caught up to them, schedule, you name it. And it's more often than you think. It's not the same team, obviously, but it's just throughout the league. It's like we talk about scheduled losses just based on travel and all of that nonsense. And it's not going to get easier if they're looking at adding more teams and more games somehow.
And like more travel, exactly.
More travel.
Like you're going to Atlanta, you're going to Houston.
Yeah,
and
it's frustrating. I'll tell you that.
And I don't know what the next 2 would be. Like those 2, it's almost as if it's like a formality now. The league has leaked it out that, hey, brace for it. It's happening. It's Houston and Atlanta. Atlanta for a third time, again, is just a complete joke.
Dude, I think it's
so embarrassing.
Quebec City sitting there, and you're going to go to another city that had 4 people there the second time around, and you're going back. Really?
It's a complete joke. And I know their argument is, well, there's a different building, and it'll be different ownership. I don't care. It's the same people. It's the same audience that you're trying to cultivate, and nobody in Atlanta cared either time.
I do think they're going to be. I think they'll be successful this time.
How, Noodles? You explain to me how they'll be successful.
Ask Pierre how it's going to happen. Tell him tell us how Atlanta times 3.
Let's see if Pierre Pierre doesn't represent the league here, so it's not, but he can give his opinion. Maybe he sees it my way, maybe he sees it your way, Noodles. I don't know. Here he is, Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. There you go, Pierre. You got the floor. Do you believe Atlanta for the third time is going to somehow pop off and be a great success?
If so, how?
I think if you were present in the Gary Bettman scrum again Wednesday when the GM meetings wrapped up, you will attest that I'm not exactly on the same page as the league on many things.
Okay,
we
I got
back
you.
and forth on a few things, but yeah, I like to have fun in those things. What are you guys asking about? Houston, Atlanta? Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been talking about it for years now, and now the name of Dan Freakin came out yesterday through Emily Kaplan. Bill Daly confirmed that to me as well last night, that he's a strong option to be an owner in Houston. But Daly also reiterated, and I guess the league keeps adding this, and no one really wants to hear this part, and I get why, but he reiterated that the league is not yet in a place where they're ready to expand. I feel like I have to add that because we tend to get ahead of ourselves, but I do think it's happening. And I think the way it's going to happen, and this is just me reading between the lines, is that there's a few important things that have to happen before the next expansion. One is the next CBA. So that's, talks are starting in early April. The league and the PA are sending out positive vibes. They want to get an extension done. So let's say they do that without going off the rails. So CBA extension, huge. Then the next big one, and this is where it gets interesting as far as the cart and the horse. What is Gary Bettman's future? Which I asked him about Wednesday. You may have heard the exchange on that one. He said he was going to outlast me. But, a lot of people wondering, where is this succession plan? Is it tied to the new CBA, or is it tied to one more round of expansion before perhaps there's a succession plan for the commissioner? All to be determined. We don't know that for sure. But I guess that's what I'm saying is I think the next round of expansion, certainly at the very least, has to wait for a new CBA. And then it's a question of where does it tie in with Gary Bettman's future?
Okay, but Atlanta in particular for a third time, if it happens, how could they possibly explain that to people? How?
So, yeah, I mean, listen, I've been there the last time they had a team. I actually covered the All-Star game there. I get why, listen, if you really want to have fun, that the league is dying to go back to Phoenix, right? I mean, you guys know that. I mean, that's another
Sure.
one. They can't wait. And the same reason they want to go back to Atlanta one day, the same reason they want to go back to Phoenix is that they are large major U.S. markets that they believe could finally work if the teams run properly. I think we can all agree the Phoenix thing was a complete disaster, almost from start to finish. They never built the rink in the right place, shaky ownership throughout. But if you ever have a good owner and build a rink in Scottsdale or Phoenix, I actually believe for sure it'll work in Phoenix myself. I bet you if MJ was here, he'd say the same thing. I haven't played there. But they never had that kind of, solid footing. And I guess that's where the league feels the same way about Atlanta. I'm not ready to say that. I have no proof of that. I've not spent that much time in my life in Atlanta. So, but that's why. And, the other thing is you'll hear the league say this, and you take it for how you guys want, guys. But the NHL is a unique league compared to the other big three, right? We have 7 Canadian teams. So the U.S. footprint, NHL-wise, is not as spread out as the NBA and the NFL and MLB. The NHL is in 25 U.S. markets compared to the other leagues. So the idea of more expansion to places like Atlanta or Houston or back to Phoenix is pretty obvious. Those are big markets, and they're not there, and they want to keep spreading their brand.
So, Pierre, you were down at the meetings. You met with Bettman. You obviously, got to pick a lot of people's brains. Did anything productive get accomplished down there as far as what you think, okay, maybe some tweaks here, some changes or some thought processes moving forward that you believe will be implemented as early as next season?
Yeah, well, listen, in the here and now, and we had another big one last night in Long Island with the goalie interference. Patrick Watt decided to challenge it, and he was wrong. I got to say, I'm a bit of a cynic, so I don't know if you guys listened to our hits this week from there, but they brought the media in after the GM meetings after day one and let us hear a version of the same presentation that GM's got on goalie interference, coach's challenge. I don't know. Maybe I've just been around too long, but, the idea is that there's a consistency there and a clear criteria, and I get it. It was actually, part of it was an education for a lot of us to remember, are you in the blue crease? How did you get in the blue crease? Are you allowing the goalie to reset and play his position? I get it. That's a very clear criteria that the Situation Room in Toronto is looking at. I'm here to tell you, though, that I'm not totally buying the kind of unanimity that the league was telling us that they got in all their breakout groups of GMs on 54 different goal interference reviews. I just, and I'm not embarrassed to say I shared as much of that when I was in the room with the league, because I just think we're in for some controversies again with this come playoff time. I covered that Colorado Dallas playoff series last year, and it didn't become as big a story as it could have because Dallas ended up winning anyways to win the series in Game 6. But to this day, it's probably the angriest I've ever seen Jim Nill when they disallowed that goal in overtime. And it was really a 50-50 call for sure. And I'm telling you, it's still, to me, a pretty gray area. Even with the criteria explained, I just explained it, but to me, if there's a big takeaway from this week is that the league was really trying to stress, and it did a good job explaining it. Again, don't get me wrong. They brought it through all the steps, but I still think we're headed for some moments here come playoff time.
Pierre, was there any GMs that avoided white dress pants down there in the fear of the end of the season coming up? Anybody a little nervous about the future with poor seasons?
Oh, good question, O-Dog. I didn't even think of that. I didn't see any white pants. I'm trying to think here.
Oh, I know.
There were definitely some tea times. As the meetings ended at noon every day. But
Shocking.
Not for me, sadly. Listen, I think that, I think that if there's still a buzz that I heard from a lot of the managers, it's just how many trades went down before the deadline this year. We've kind of been let down by the deadline the last number of years, and I think there was still a buzz among the managers. Is that I think they surprised themselves with how active it was and how meaningful it was, and maybe a lot of it was forced by the Mikko Rantanen situation, which is perhaps a one-off. I mean, I don't know if we're going to see a guy of his stature traded twice in 6 weeks mid-season. But that trade itself, and I had a chance to catch up with Eric Tulsky there at the GM meetings, but that's still being talked about. Like, I think we're still going to talk about that in a year or two about how it all went down and where he ended up.
With Pierre LeBrun, our TSN hockey insider, what are you hearing on the status of Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl moving forward?
Yeah, I checked into that in the last few hours here, guys. I don't think within the organization they think it's anything too serious, but I also don't think we'll see them, in the very near future either. I think they're going to be super cautious with each superstar, given that, they're not fighting for their playoff lives. And, as the silver lining, if there is at all, is that they actually rest these two workhorses before the playoffs. But, you're always worried, I think, when you have two of the best 3 or 4 players in the world are injured, this late in the year. But again, my sense today from the organization was that they're just being cautious and it's not serious. If I had to guess, I think McDavid's out at least a week, and then we'll see, and then Draisaitl maybe a week or 2. But I think everyone involved expects both to play games for the end of the regular season and be ready for the playoffs, which is probably all that matters at this point.
Yeah. That's what's important. But we were talking about it yesterday, Pierre, that like Draisaitl's in a Hart race and an Art Ross race, and if he's going to miss 2 weeks, that may cost him that hardware. Like he may not win the Hart Trophy if he misses, 8 games down the stretch or something like that.
You know what trophy Leon cares about?
I understand that, but it's not. This isn't a fan vote. This is the Hart Trophy. It's a pretty significant one too.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. And the reason it might cost them is just because it's so close. Nathan McKinnon's having an unreal year. Connor Hellebuck, if the Canucks make the playoffs, where do you have Quinn Hughes battling through everything? I think there's lots of different cases to be made, and maybe missing 2 or 3 weeks could be the difference for sure. I'm just saying, though, that I bet you that's not really front of mind for him right now. Given how close they got last year to winning it all.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is what it is, but unfortunately, he can't control that. And I would think McKinnon probably has a slight edge anyways right now. Hellebuck should deserve a lot of love. I don't want to overlook the goaltender. But you're right, Draisaitl has to focus on what's important to them. You look at these playoff races, Pierre, I can't, it seems like it's daily. Out west, I mean, where all of a sudden St. Louis is there. I mean,
They're in the spot right now, second wild card.
Is that the team, or is it Vancouver? Is it Calgary who came back against Jersey? Like, this might be flat out down to the last day of the season. And I know the league will be fired up about this, but you have to think there's some owners and the fan bases will be pissed to say, we've been talking about this, 16 teams making the playoffs, 32 teams in the league, and it's been like that for 100 years, and Gary is so bullish on not expanding it.
Yeah, and, and I asked Bettman again about whether or not he considered changing the playoff format. I knew what the answer would be, but within that answer, he added a little kicker, and we have our own version of a play-in with these races on both sides. So he understands what's being written and commented for sure. He knows what you guys are saying on OverDrive. And he happens to be right this year. The races on each side are phenomenal right now to get in for, especially for 8th spot and on both sides. The Blues, the kicker for me on the Blues is that, we know for a fact that a month out from the trade deadline, Doug Armstrong was telling teams, hey, give me a call. It's not my core guys. I'll listen. And then I kind of wonder sometimes when that happens, because you hear it from other teams. Does he want that out there just to wake up his team? Like, did he maybe never have any intention to trade any of those guys, and now they've found, they've rallied and they've found they're playing their best hockey of the year. I love that stuff looking back, and versus I was hard to know the truth. But that was a team a month from the deadline that was like, I think the playoffs are real for us. Whew. I mean, here they are. And, some of it is that, Calgary and Vancouver are backed up a bit. No one's running away with it, but still it's pretty compelling stuff. And, I always look at it this way. Which team would scare you the most if you're a top seed, right? And the teams that I always would hate playing if I'm a top seed is the teams that feel like they've already won the Stanley Cup just by making the playoffs. And, like, for example, if Montreal hangs in there, I don't know if they will. The Habs have a really tough schedule here in the next couple of weeks. But if the Habs get in, and that's the prize for Washington, I don't know, man. Like, I obviously I'm going to pick Washington, but I'm just telling you, that would be a Habs team going on some kind of mojo where it's like, we've already won. Like, nothing we do now can change the script as far as our expectations. And if I'm a number one seed that's overexceeded like Washington, that's an unsettling feeling for me.
Pierre, we were talking about Matthew Knies and about how he's come into his own this season. It's been fantastic for the player, the team. How would you guess that his next contract goes? Like, what would you predict happens here?
Oh, boy. He's kind of in the waiting line, is he not? That's part of the problem if you're Matthew Knies, is that you're not on the on-deck circle, I don't think, given everything else. Well, I mean, he's an important contract, but listen, until the Leafs have an answer on Mitch Marner, it's really hard to start committing major dollars elsewhere. And, at the end of the day, Matthew Knies is RFA, so it's not like you're concerned about him going anywhere either. So time is on your side there. But I just think that before you know what you want to do there, you got to answer the Marner question for sure in my mind. But, what I love about Knies is that I feel like every couple months he's found another level in his game. Like, it's a nice gradual progress in who this guy's ceiling can be, and with not a lot of regression. It's been a real steady climb for this guy since he's come into the league. And I don't know, a lot of players would like to say that, but not a lot of them can. I really like Matthew Knies.
Well, it's interesting, the pecking order. You referenced that he's not on deck, and that would be Marner. But I would put Knies ahead of Tavares if I'm the Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Oh, my God, not even a question.
Yeah. Not even a question.
Yeah.
Like, sorry,
No,
and this is where it can get sticky, where let's say Marner takes it up until June 30th, and you haven't figured it out yet. You're going to speak with Knies, and you have the right to do that, and he's an RFA, like you said, and you can get a read on where his head is at. And the Leafs will be doing that if they haven't done it already. So they may have a pretty good read on what those numbers are going to be. But if I'm waiting on Marner, and Nyes, I'm not signing John Tavares before I sign both of those guys if that's the plan. Like if the plan is full commitment to Marner, and then obviously we got to figure out Nyes. Tavares is third, which that could get uncomfortable. If it's July 5th, and you're telling John, we haven't figured this out yet, man. Like,
yeah, but I think,
moving chairs here, you may want to jump on one if we're not calling you back quick enough.
Yeah, and when I say you got to figure out Marner, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to wait until the actual Marner situation is totally decided. My point is you need to get a pretty strong read on it after the
right,
season.
Of course.
So you could sign Nyes before the final shoe is dropped on Marner, but you won't really know where that is until after the season is what I'm saying. And there's lots of time between the end of their season and July 1st to figure that out. I'm not worried about the Nyes situation at all, but, on Tavares, he's wanted really. His agent Pat Brisson has not been shy to tell the Leafs really from the start of the season this past fall, that they've been ready to extend. I mean, John Tavares loves it here, doesn't want to go anywhere, and they've been open to that. But the Leafs have had to say, hey, it can't be something we do right now, right? And with all due respect. So, yeah, we'll see where that goes. And I think that's okay if you're the Leafs, because I think the Leafs have been too worried over the years to sometimes get some of these things done. Like, you know what? This is a big playoff again for this team and this core. How about let's see what happens and then react to that. I'm fine with that if I were running the Leafs.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Pierre, we'll leave it there. Enjoy your weekend. We'll do it again soon.
Right on. See you, boys.
There's Pierre LeBrun joining us here on OverDrive. And, again, you look at Tavares, he had 1,100 points in his career last night, and he's 29 goals. That matches the number he had last year. So he's going to beat his number from a year ago. A few years ago he had 27 goals. He's already beat that. He's 34. He'll be 35 to start next year. But, he may have 33 goals and 70-something points. And, that's a really, really quality season. He's had a really consistent, season. He had a great start. That helped, right? He got off to a good start, scored a lot of goals early. But,
yeah, I mean, it is, the longevity's been great. But he makes $11 million too. So, I mean, that's the thing. You're paying him for production. Now he's had production through 7 years, though. That's the
absolutely.
Impressive
He has not
part.
had a dip at any point in terms of producing.
So I wasn't being hard on him. I'm saying, he makes a lot of money, but he's earned it, and he's come to play and been a complete pro for full 7 years.
Comes back to the same thing, though, guys. They gave him $70-something million. He's been a productive guy.
Yeah.
But with him, they won one playoff round in all of it. One.
Yeah. I know.
That to me is the king daddy topper. You could talk about production and goals, but all of these players together have won one playoff round. So the idea of wanting to bring the band back together, if it happens again this year, would be absolute lunacy.
Yeah.
Absolute lunacy.
There's no arguing against that. Now, they may choose lunacy. Based on the way that the Leafs have operated for a long time, I think that's probably the favorite. If we're taking odds, is that they'll just bring the band back and tweak a few things and, circle back and see what happens. But, Tavares, as Pierre said, has been pretty forthright. He wants to stay, and we'll see what comes of that.
So if they don't get by one round again and win multiple rounds, you would think that they were going to bring back the band again?
Yeah.
Under what basis?
They've already made it clear they're begging Marner to negotiate, begging him. So they want to sign him before they even play a playoff game. So
right.
They're laying it out on the cards on the table. Now maybe their mind will change in a month, maybe, but I'm not sure it will. I mean, I get the impression the Leafs just want to be in the Mitch Marner business forever, and what happens in the playoffs is completely irrelevant. That's what it feels like.
Which, I mean, if you want to do that, Brian, I think that they would be fine with it. But John Tavares is a different animal.
He's different because of his age.
He's 35 years old, and there will be a point where, it's like hot potato. At some point,
right.
You get caught with it. You'll get burnt. You'll burn your hand.
And he might be looking. He might have Steven Stamkos' thought process where he's like, Guys are still getting paid, and Steven Stamkos had a number. He was like, I want to put $32 million in my pants.
Yep.
Maybe John Tavares is thinking that. And I would say you're going to have to do it somewhere else.
I think that should be the case. Yeah, I think the Leafs at some point have got to say, listen, because, again, Nyes you're going to have to pay. You got to pay other guys. But, I mean, if he ends up with close to 35 goals and 70 points, like that's a good season, really good season. Like that's going to – someone will pay him. Someone will.
That's
and
right.
Maybe it will be.
But let's see what they do in the playoffs. Can they get to a conference final? Can they get to a cup final?
That should be the case. It should have been the case years ago, but it wasn't years ago. So they have to prove me wrong. But they will deviate from this plan.
Here's something, though, that I think should be on the table. Regardless of what they do, say they make it to a cup final. Does that mean, okay, you just got to bring them back? Like, I'm of the, you're always trying to make your team better. And as a business, as the manager or in the business of hockey, you can't let emotions overrun this. We've seen mistakes. I'll give you an example. Mike Richards. Dean Lombardi signed Mike Richards because Mike Richards helped him win 2 cups. Now, they ended up getting out of the contract, or at least there was some, I think he got bought out, but, he had some personal problems and all of that type of stuff. But you fall in love with your players because you either had success or not success with them. I feel like their contracts, John Tavares' contract shouldn't be tied to if they have success or not. You're trying to ice the best team moving forward for the best economic value. And if he doesn't fit that, then you have to go, love you, but it didn't. We're moving on regardless. It's not going to work in the
future.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Usually it's another team that wants to pony up the money. I just mentioned Steven Stamkos. It wasn't Tampa that wanted to give him $32 million. It was the Nashville Predators. The Ottawa Senators wanted to give Claude Giroux 3 times 6, not the Philadelphia Flyers. A lot of times in that scenario, regardless of the success that's been had in the past, it's a different team that wants to pony up and give you the money that you want.
And it's a great point, and that's what I'm saying is I don't believe they should be. Brian, you're saying they probably are, because what we've seen
that's their history,
in the past.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm saying I don't think they should be. I don't think they go, well, if you have a bunch of success, then it just has to be.
I think you're absolutely right.
I think it's like, what is the best team that you can put together for next season? And if it involves Sam Bennett or involves other players, then it's like,
even if they win a cup, you're supposed to do that. As the manager, you're not. It's not a lifetime achievement award because you did something.
Look at how Vegas has switched things up.
Exactly.
Well, and
Florida
Tampa
just won and told Montour, "Sorry, we don't have the money for you. Thanks for everything.
Right.
See you later."
But that's and Montour went and got paid.
Yeah,
good on him. But there is, it shouldn't be tied together.
You get the contract for the future, not the
past.
Exactly. I mean, that's literally the nature of the negotiation and. You're right. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't mean you can't make sense of it. Maybe if it's a 1-year deal or something like that. But if there's term on a 35-year-old, whoever it is, that's a dangerous game. That can be a dangerous game. All right, Dear Hayesy B coming up. Mail it in Friday. Brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. So fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. Dear Hayesy B, next.
People send in a tweet. They write us for our professional advice on life things. Dear Hayesy B, every morning my boiler has a gas leak. My wife thinks it's the baby.
Dear Hayesy B.
If you want to come to Hayesy B, I need honesty from you.
Hayesy, you got dumped a lot. Tell me. Tell him.
Grown adults with birthdays, it's asinine.
All right, Dear Hayesy B, brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you get it all in 20 minutes or less. So fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza.
Guys, this one's serious, so no clowning around.
No dinking around? All right, fair enough.
Dear Hayesy B, I recently had my bachelor party in Vegas and found out that my father-in-law enjoys having a night on the town. There was an incident at an establishment and the cops were involved, and I'm worried that there could be a bigger problem moving forward with the incident. The group was sworn to secrecy, but I have concerns that I may get off to the wrong foot with my soon-to-be wife for not telling her what happened to her father. Do I bring this up to her or keep our word with the guys? Kyle in Toronto.
Word with the guys. Let me be clear here. Word with the guys, because I don't know if your wife wants to know about that type of behavior anyway. That's the thing, exactly. Like,
dude, what happens if something goes down and she says, hey, Kyle, you could have gave me a heads up about this. We're supposed to start our life together and you're not being upfront?
I know.
That this guy was doing whatever he was doing in the champagne. I don't know what he was doing.
Well, who knows? But in the cops being involved, like, you may have a scenario where can he cross the border again in the future? I mean, it could get very sticky, and I understand that. That's where you start to overthink of it and overanalyze it. What if you're trusting him not to say something and he brings it up? You know, it's like, I got to come clean here. I don't know. I'm sure Kyle told you.
Dude,
no,
can you imagine
he
if this guy fires that out at a family dinner?
Well, then immediately
I would run to my car and never see anyone again in the room.
I think it's immediate divorce from the whole crew, the whole family. Everyone's out if he sewers you like that after you took one for the team. But I think there's kind of a code here where this isn't, you know, you're keeping somewhat of a secret, but it's not. It's for the right reason, and it's not something that I think your wife or fiance would take personally that you didn't tell her about that. Personally, I don't know. I can't get into her mind. I can't think like that. But I think you just got to go down with the ship here and hold the front, hold the fort, and just you can't say anything. And if it ever comes out, then you got to be quick on your toes. That's a part of marriage, man. Be quick on your toes.
The story is not yours to tell.
Exactly. It's not yours.
His, right? Like, that's the thing. You were there.
I know, but Noodles, you understand that he could be presented with a scenario where his brand new wife says, you were with my father at this place, and you didn't give me any kind of inclination that this went down?
I think the explanation here, and it's hard because we need a little bit more information, because what was the type of business that this guy,
it's Vegas, and the word establishment in Vegas, I probably know exactly what this guy was up to.
I'm thinking, I'm trying to go on the lighter side, the conservative side. It's like he punched somebody in a strip bar.
It's not jaywalking.
No, I know, but if he gets in a dust-up in a bar and it's embarrassing and he doesn't want it and he ends up in the drunk tank for the night, I'm sure he'd prefer that people didn't know that, if there's no harm, no foul type of thing. Mm-hmm. But where you're headed, the path, which is probably what happened, I still think it's his story to tell.
I agree.
I
Not
feel
your story
like
to tell.
It's just, okay, now are you guilt by association going, you were right there, man. You bailed him out. You're the one who got him out of the clink.
Good soldier, though, right?
Yes.
I mean, you stepped up, and you're there. You're there and happy to help when need be. You're a foxhole guy. I think that's worth a lot.
Who do you want to be a foxhole guy with, though? Your lunatic father-in-law or your future wife?
Well, think of
maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
That's what I'm thinking. Like,
let's
what
be
if,
honest here.
There might be something that presents it in the future too, and here's where I'm going. You and your wife are talking. You're on a vacation or something, and she goes, "She's my dad used to be a lunatic. He got, this is maybe it's happened before." And she, and she laid
icebreaker.
Dad got in it. So then you go, I got to be honest. Like, there was an incident, but I didn't want to tell you. Like that type of stuff. There might be a future. I get it. Honesty is always like.
I'm telling you, the worst thing that happens, Noodles, is if the father-in-law comes clean without anybody else knowing, then he screws everyone.
But I'll give you another one that is worse for this guy. He tells his wife, goes, don't say anything. She gives you the wink, wink, I'm not saying anything. She calls up her mom immediately and goes, you're not going to believe what he did.
What Dad did again.
And guess what? Then you hear wheels screeching outside your door because he's coming for you. And he's like,
Yeah.
You weren't supposed to say anything. And then you're done. Then you're in his bad books forever.
Yeah.
You're never getting out of it.
Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving,
You're
you are. See,
never getting out of it.
You could be in his great books for many years because you have this,
There's
shared
a bond
secret,
there. This guy
but
did something that, put him in a bad place.
It's a slippery slope because what he's asking you to do
guy.
technically is to not lie, but untruth.
Yeah, just didn't bring it up.
Didn't bring it up.
Didn't
I
bring
forgot
it up.
to tell you.
How was the trip? It was great.
Fine, no problem.
Everyone was always on their best behavior, having
Buddy
a great
Johnny
time.
Germain weighed in and said, "You can't say anything. What if you cause a divorce for your own in-laws?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that could happen. Like, there's a very good chance your wife could be like, what? I'm getting to the bottom of this myself. And then it's like,
wow.
And again, if we're talking about, hey, you got arrested because there was, someone at the bar asked him if he was here or staying for the night, and you're like, uh-oh. This isn't good.
I just
Anyway, moving on. What else do we have?
Moving on, dear Hayesy B, I go golfing with one of my closest friend, and he's convinced the only way he plays well if he gets absolutely hammered. His wife is sending me texts saying that he'll need to avoid this and can't keep these shenanigans up every time he hits the course. How do I handle this conundrum? Daryl in Whitby. Your name's Daryl, as if you're not partaking.
Yeah, I don't even know how to answer these ones anymore. Like, really, the guy, he can't just go out and play golf. Like,
Dude, I know guys that.
I get it. They want to have a good time, or are going to have a good time, and that's fine. But there's also there's a limit on it. There's an ability to find your way home, my stance would be: you go out there, you want to have a good time, go ahead. But you're there to play golf, and you're keeping score, and you're playing during the day, and it's not a nighttime sport. Like that. That's what I don't like. I get it.
Do you think that kind of is a deterrent for people?
Well,
there's
clearly
people
it's
that
not.
There's people like to get after it at 7:40 a.m.
I've seen it. I know it. I get it. But and again, if you're at a tournament or something, fine. Like that's what it is. Or you're on a road trip or whatever. But a Saturday 9:10 a.m. tee time, and you can't make it through that without. I would say you just tell your buddy, like, snap out of it.
Smarten up or I'm
play
out too.
Yeah, just enough because it's causing problems for everybody.
This one is personal opinion. Dear Hayesy B, I want you guys to think of your best option for what you would do.
Okay.
Getting way out in front of a Leafs road trip for next season. Nashville's high on the list, but is it the right call? Need some help. Thanks, guys. Adam and Vaughn. Your best
Noodles, you go
Maple
first.
Leaf road trip that you would send. And you can't just say Nashville. It's got to be Hazy. I know you like Florida. Maybe it would be Florida for you.
Yeah. Noodles, I'll let you go because I feel like I know what your answer is going to be.
Well, yeah. Okay, so Nashville. But here's why I would do Nashville. Okay?
But Noodles, you have to consider that maybe this guy doesn't like bellying up at Tootsie's and getting creamed all day.
I understand that. But maybe you're a football fan. And there's a game that weekend.
Yes.
And you do, like, again, schedule permitting and all of that. It turns into a sports weekend. But, yes, there is entertainment of Tootsies and all of that. But keep in mind, Nashville has now become a lot like Vegas. There's something for everybody. It's not just country music and cowboy boots. There is great restaurants. There is history. There are so many things. Now you've got an NFL team. Now you're going to watch the Leafs on a road trip in an unbelievable building. Like that building rocks and does well. So that's why I'm saying Nashville, because I think you can build into a weekend entertainment that goes with the game. It's kind of like a Vegas trip, but it's just a different setting. It's Nashville.
My fear is you missed the boat because this was the year because it's a Saturday night.
Yeah,
right? Like next year they might be there on a Tuesday or something, and it's just different.
Saturday night would be a good one.
Yeah, like if you're flying to Vegas, and there are people from Toronto on their way there right now, or they are already there, and it's go time tonight into tomorrow into the game. I've done that. The Friday night, Saturday, went to see Nashville play Winnipeg. I think it was on the Saturday night. And I can tell you from my experience, I lasted about a period and a half. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'm back. I'm going back to Broadway. I don't want to be in a rink right now. I go to hockey games all the time. This was always my argument with Vegas. You know, if I'm in Vegas, I don't want to go to a hockey game. Like, I'm Canadian. I've been to a million hockey games. But I will say Vegas, as much as I doubted it for a long, long time, it is a phenomenal experience to go to a game there.
Yes.
Vegas is a different beast, and you can go on a Tuesday, and you will find a great time. And you will find golf courses because it's nicer weather. Nashville's it's not warm all year round, right? You go to Nashville in November or December, it's like 5 degrees, man. You're not bringing your golf clubs. It's not patio weather. So I would suggest if you're going to do a roadie, you mix in the golf clubs and warm weather.
So it's Florida.
It might be Florida. It could be a Florida-Tampa 2-pack. Like, that's the dream scenario. Tampa Thursday, Florida Friday with golf, whatever surrounding it. It's just a perfect setup. You can't beat
I don't
that.
think you can go wrong with this. You fly into San Jose, watch your team play the Sharks, and drive down that Pacific Coast Highway. I don't know if you can rip off a round at Pebble Beach possibly, and then you float into Santa Monica and go to Shutters, have a martini. Billy
Shutters.
Joel might come in and play on the piano.
You're right. That's the best roadie is the California roadie.
It's gotta be.
If you can do San Jose, LA, Anaheim, and you're out and do a week, there's nothing like it.
Wine country. If you drink wine,
like you said, bring the clubs, mix in Pebble. Now you're talking the trip of a lifetime.
That is. I mean,
lifetime.
I got short-sighted with Nashville, but
Nashville, you can't go wrong, man. It's a great trip.
But I do think you make a great point on the weather.
Weather, I think, is
the
important.
weather is very predictable in certain cities.
Yeah.
So if you're doing California, the worst you can do, it's 22 degrees. You know what I mean? Like, it's T-shirt and shorts still. Maybe a little sweater or a little
especially
hoodie
in LA
at night.
and Anaheim, man. It's
and I'll tell you one other one you
money.
can do. If you can catch your team, whatever team it is, if you can get the New York area and just set up shop in Manhattan around Christmas time, like 10 days before Christmas, that is the winter version of the California. It's It's just amazing going to hockey games and being in Manhattan at that time.
Yeah, that's
true.
one that we should reference. They were now we've given 5, but you're going to the Garden, New York, Manhattan. It is something else, man. You can't beat New York.
There's something for if you somehow you get Saturday Night Live tickets, you know what I mean? Or you can go to the game. You can do. There's just so many different things to do in that New York area. I agree. It's just not golfing. If you and your boys, I went on my 40th birthday. We did a boys trip to New York, and it was.
It's
fantastic.
Amazing, man. New York is
and
so lights out.
We actually did a Mets or a Yankees game. I think it was Yankee. We took the subway in and stuff. Yep. It was pretty cool.
Straight up to the Bronx. That is a catch and release. You get in and out of Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
You 20 minutes after last pitch, it is no one's hanging around that stadium there.
You're not hanging into the neighborhood just to visit.
It's not people watching around there. So that would be it. Nashville, Florida, California, New York. Those are your options, I think. Best options if you're going to the States. And then you can never beat Montreal as well on a Saturday night, clearly. But that's staying within the country. All right, there we go. Helping people. Look at us out here helping people. And I think we achieved that today, and I'm proud of us.
Yes.
I think we should be proud of ourselves.
Kyle, you keep quiet.
Keep quiet.
You hear me?
There's a code. Don't screw everything up, Kyle. All right, Best Bets powered by FanDuel coming up. We'll tee up the weekend as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's Best Bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Only one game in the NHL tonight. I'm on the over Columbus-Pittsburgh tonight. Columbus has got to get one here. They got to get themselves a win. You got to pick up a couple points tonight. But it's basically a pick 'em on FanDuel. And Al's brother sent me a note. We were talking about this earlier. The Hart Trophy odds on FanDuel. Hellebuck is now the favorite with this Draisaitl news. Yeah, so Hellebuck is now minus 175, I think it is, and Draisaitl's second. McKinnon's still third. in terms of the odds on FanDuel, and your best bets are powered by FanDuel. Live same-game parlays are now available for every NHL game on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly, 18+, physically located in Ontario. Rangers Canucks tomorrow. Pettersson Miller. That'll be an interesting one. 1 o'clock at the Garden tomorrow. So we'll see who shows up. Both teams need points. Gotta have points.
That Rangers team stinks, man.
Miller was he wasn't super noticeable.
Awful. He hasn't scored. He hasn't done anything in like 7 or 8 games now.
He was good early on, and now it's been lean.
Yeah,
right? Like it just
slowed down. And Pettersson's coming alive a little bit for Vancouver. So big road trip for them out east.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.